Welcome to Study with the Best, the magazine show about CUNY. I'm Tina Beth Pena. Today we're looking back at our last year's worth of programming. We're going to highlight the stories that captivated our New York audience and that truly showcased the best and brightest of the CUNY world. First up, for our episode devoted to athletics, we met up with a Queens College grad who's running a vital program for disabled kids.
Kids shouldn't grow up feeling that they're different. Kids should grow up feeling that they're kids. You know, the good part is that we're able to catch them at a young age. We're able to show them that sport is available to them. We can show them that they can compete and they can play like their able-bodied peers. They're called the Wheelchair Sports Federation sled hockey team. And they're kids with disabilities. My job happens to be the Commissioner of the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities. I want to show these kids that they can be the Commissioner of the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities. It's really that simple, they can. I just want to let everybody know that I'm seeing a lot of good improvement on people skating. I see all the kids develop tremendously. If we look at the kids team that we started back last season, the kids were being pushed around. They couldn't push the sled. Now they're pushing themselves. They're more involved. They're more involved with their friends. It builds your self-confidence. It allows you to compete. It builds camaraderie. So it does so many different things, and overall it just makes you feel good. No, I wasn't always in a wheelchair. Back in 1994, the year the Rangers won the Stanley Cup, I was downhill mountain biking with my friends in Forest Park. And I flew over my handlebars into a tree, and I injured my spinal cord. Moved my fingers, and I went to move my toes, and I knew I was paralyzed right there. And, when I first got hurt, I didn't particularly want to live. I didn't think life was worth living. And then as time goes on, and you start seeing that, and you realize that you can, it's like, wow, it's life, it's worth living, it's everything, it's great. The Paralympics are simply, and it's parallel, it's next to the Olympics. That's what the Paralympics mean. And it's for physically disabled athletes, and they compete and train in the same facilities as Olympic athletes do. Without my disability, I wouldn't have been able to travel the world the way I was, and it was all because of sport. People's perception when they see people with disabilities, you tell them, hey, I competed in the Paralympic Games. They're like, oh, how nice. How nice that is, and they give you a pat on your back, and some people even pat you on your head. It's like, you have no idea what it's like. You have no idea what it's like to overcome something and be able to compete at a high level. The kids team that we put together, they don't have to worry about getting the pat on their back or the pat on their head. It's like, no, I'm here, I'm an athlete. This is who I'm gonna be. I'm gonna be this the rest of my life, and I'm gonna overcome anything that you put in my way. Now, again, good job. Now skate, Evan, skate. Evan, nice pass, really nice pass.
Sled hockey was the thing that sort of immediately caught my son's attention. And we met Victor Khaleesi there, and he brought a sled for Sam the first day. And on that first day, Sam skated for 2 hours straight nonstop, and he couldn't stop talking about it. A lot of our players and kids don't have a lot of other opportunities to interact with other disabled kids. When you're disabled, you rely on other people to help you in lots of different things. And sort of like I said before, when he gets there on the ice and he's just skating by himself, he doesn't need my help, he doesn't need his mom's help, he's just skating.
What I would like the kids to take away from their sled hockey team is that they're confident and they can do anything they want. And they can have careers and they can excel in life.
Let's go Rangers! Let's go Rangers!
It has changed my son's life. It's changed all these kids' lives. It's changed all their parents' lives.
He's finally on a team like all his friends. It has made an unbelievable impact on his life. Move it, Michael, move it. Move it. Last night, when he was going to bed, he said, Mom, I finally got my first trophy. How great is that? Powerful stuff. Keep going, don't give up. Don't give up, don't give up. All right.
Once I was actually transporting my harp to a subway gig, and I had the cover on, and I was pushing it down the sidewalk, and a little kid was with his mother, and he stops, and he just points at the harp, and he's like, oh, he's like, Mom, look at that, it's a giant chess piece.
Hi.
My name's Emily Hopkins. I grew up in West Islip, Long Island. I'm a sophomore at Hunter College. I'm studying music performance. I'm part of the Hunter Symphony. which is run by Hunter. Even before I start playing, I'm unpacking. People stop to look and say, "Oh, what is that?" And it really makes me feel good that I have this talent to do this and make their day a little better. The heat of the subway is a difficult thing to deal with. It makes it difficult to stay in tune. Thankfully, I've had no hecklers. They don't really bother me a lot. I don't know who would want to bother a harpist. I've performed in Carnegie Hall in 2009 with the Metropolitan Youth Orchestra, and that was a great experience, but it is a lot different than playing in the subways. I would prefer playing in the subways because it's a lot more informal than actually going onto a stage, having complete silence, and everyone listening to you play a certain repertoire. When I was accepted into Hunter, I was offered the Muse Scholarship. My tuition and room and board is actually paid for, so I'm very lucky. I enjoy seeing little children come up and say, "What is that? Can I play the harp?" And I would love to inspire someone to play the harp, and it doesn't really matter about making money, it's just about doing what I love to do. I've had people come up to me and say, "Is that the thing that angels play?" And I was like, yeah.
This past January, Study with the Best followed the fascinating story of a Brooklyn College grad with an unforgettable connection to the Civil War. Who would have thought it? From the scars of exclusion comes the power of inclusion, a story in miniature that chronicles where we are now as a country and as a people. And we're talking about the DAR, also known as the Daughters of the American Revolution.
The DAR is not just one thing. It's heritage, it's preservation, it's commemoration, it's women's issues.
The DAR was founded in 1890 for women whose ancestors were patriots in the Revolutionary War. Even though the first person killed in the Revolutionary War was black, and over 5,000 African Americans contributed to America's fight for independence, the DAR excluded women of color for many years. It made headlines most notably when the acclaimed African-American contralto, Marian Anderson, was denied the right to perform at Constitution Hall by the DAR because of her color. Instead, and at the urging of Eleanor Roosevelt, who quit the DAR in protest, the singer performed at the Lincoln Memorial on April 9th, 1939.
I was aware of how badly Marian Anderson was treated, and I felt that I didn't want to align myself with such an organization. I worked for civil rights when I was growing up. And so later on, things have changed, and as we say, it's not your mother's DAR.
No, this is not your mother's DAR anymore. It has changed over the years to welcome women of all races, religions, and ethnic backgrounds. So when the DAR hit the headlines again this summer, it was a very, very different story. For the first time, a woman of color was selected to be the president of a new DAR chapter.
When they picked up the story in the New York Times, that was just just completely unexpected, did not even give it a thought. They called me, asked me about starting the chapter, that's fine, and then on the 4th of July on the front page, they felt that it was an important milestone in the history of DAR.
As Wilhelmina Rhodes Kelly sees it, today's DAR is all about history and patriotism, pure and simple. And that includes everybody.
Well, I descend from a patriot of the Revolutionary War, Stephen H. Hamlin, who was not necessarily a soldier. He actually provided a rifle and a horse and beef for the soldiers. He was white, he was European. It was his grandson, Edward Hamlin, who the family calls Ned, who had a committed relationship with a formerly enslaved woman, Dolly Scott, and they had children together both before and after the Civil War.
I'm also interested in this particular chapter because it's named after a relative of mine whose name is Increase Carpenter. And Increase Carpenter was a tavern owner in Queens during the Revolution and a patriot. And because of his patriotism, which was not very popular with the British, he was executed. And he is buried here. It's on the campus of York College.
Through genealogy, I have found that there has been a member of my family that has served in every war that America has ever fought in, going back to the French and Indian War, so before the Revolution. So it's an honor to know that my family has contributed to the growth of what we now know as America.
The big picture of this chapter, the Increase Carpenter chapter, is that we're not old-fashioned. We're not sitting with funny hats having tea. We don't just stay at home. We reach out to the Lawrence Cemetery. We reach out to the veterans. We reach out to the wounded in the hospital. We're interested in historic preservation. There's a lot going on here.
Thank you. Now you are welcome, my darling.
Official.
We try to help people find their identity, find their foundation, share it with their children, and give them a sense of self. You must know where you've come from in order to really appreciate who you are and what your strengths are and what people have gone through to make it possible for you to live in this country that has so much and has potential for even more greatness.
April's episode was all about cuisine, and when we paired kids with honey, the result was sweet.
I think it's best to be healthy. I think it's important to eat healthy because so you can be strong enough. Because that helps me grow. It tastes better. We learn about honey.
Spoons Across America has been around since 2001, and we're a nonprofit. We teach children, teachers, and families, parents, about the benefits of healthy eating and promote the idea of cooking together and sitting together around the family table.
Who would like to see the honeycomb? I want you to use your nose and your eyes and see the different colors. Some are really light and some are really dark, okay?
Our founder, Julia Jordan, is a professor at City Tech, CUNY. There's a Spoons Club at City Tech at CUNY. And we get so many different volunteers that come, and they work with the kids, they cook with the kids, they may read a story.
Excellent. Fred watches his bees fly out into his backyard garden and the other gardens on the block.
Too often we see that kids are grabbing something to eat very quickly or coming home and having fast food, which doesn't give them a lot of energy and an inability to learn. We also find that kids are disconnected from their families often. Kids that sit down at the table with their families several times a week are less likely to have problems in school, so we think it's an important value. They're always very, very excited when we come to their school. They know that when Spoons comes, they're going to get to taste something good, they're going to get to learn something that they didn't know before. The exciting thing about honey, many kids really have never really eaten honey, which is what we've been doing today. But they also don't know that honey comes from their rooftops, right in the city, that you don't have to go visit a farm that's outside of the city to have food that's from farm to table.
All around is quiet Brooklyn City. Near the edge of the roof is another tiny city. It has 3 houses, each with 2 white stories and 1 red story. And inside, thousands of tiny rooms made of wax.
Really, the idea is, how do you eat a balanced meal? How do you understand what it took for your food to get from where it started to you? Now, you may end up eating a tomato that's from California because you really like tomatoes, but you want to know how far that tomato traveled, how many gallons of gas needed to be used, or how it affected the pollution. They also have the opportunity to meet a range of volunteers, all sorts of different people that can come into their lives and affect who they are, affect what they might want to be. We've had kids that say, oh, I want to be a chef, after a chef visited their classroom, or I want to be a farmer, or I want to go to the farmer's market with my parents. And so we try to model good behavior and model all the opportunities that they have, things to be and places to go.
Honey, honey, woo! Tastes like berries. Berries? They're good, they're really good. Schools across America.
Up in the Bronx, we met a City College professor who quite literally painted the borough.
The poet and humorist Ogden Nash once said, "The Bronx no thanks." People's conception of the Bronx should change, and I hope to be a part of that catalyst for making that change. Welcome to my studio. My name is Danny Haubin, and I've been painting scenes of the Bronx for a good chunk of my life, 30 years. These are examples of pop-up paintings I've been doing. This is Marble Hill in the Bronx, and these are pastels, which lend themselves to the spontaneity and quick work of being in a location with so many things going on. This is the Riverdale River Fest, and while everybody's going about their business, I'm painting, and at the end of the day, I have this colorful rendition of the day's activities. I teach architecture at City College, and at one time I taught drawing at the Graduate Center. I just finished a 22 painting commission for Bronx Community College new library that's called the North Hall and Library. This has been a great honor for me to have been chosen for this project. This was an $80 million building. It's not just utilitarian, it's inspiring. Coming up the 2 stairwells, on the far wall of either one you find my view of the Harlem River or the view from the Hall of Fame. And you come out and you come into the main entranceway to the Information Commons, which is the main reading room, which is surrounded by the balcony that has the rest of my paintings. There are 20 paintings that surround the main reading room. My objective was to make iconic images that even from that distance would register as a familiar kind of a view. This is my painting of the Yankee stadiums while they were still together on location, and I was lucky enough to capture the 2 as one was being destroyed and the other one was going up, one of our great landmarks of the Bronx. I believe the timing of this commission has been fantastic because we are experiencing a renewal of cultural activity in the Bronx, the likes of which I did not feel for several decades. The period of the burning Bronx from the late 60s to the early 80s generated negative press and negative coverage. I took the number 4 train going through, block after block of burnt out buildings. That powerful image inspired my work for many years. I feel like we're at a moment where we're emerging. There is this kind of momentum. There is an attempt on the part of many people from many directions trying to make a viable life in the Bronx. My work is about people going about their daily lives, trying to have the best life they can under the circumstances. It's a wonderful feeling to know that your work will be enjoyed by generations to come.
First of all, good morning. Thanks for coming to Mindfulness for Educators. In the world of academia, and especially teaching, we have countless distractions in the classroom or even in our daily life. And so it's easy to fill up every space of our being with outward concerns. I'm Ricky Asher. I've been studying Buddhist meditation for about 35 years now and doing mindfulness in schools for about 3 years now. It's not really about sitting on these fancy cushions here. It's about our attitude, about ourselves, our lives, what we say, how it, how it impacts on our students or the people around us. And so how do we get that awareness? It's by quieting the mind a little bit. Imagine the root of your hair, the follicle, the hair follicle, and that root is relaxing all the way down to the tip of the strand of hair that comes out of the head. It's relaxed. And every single hair on your head is now following that one hair strand and is relaxing. And once it's relaxed, then the whole scalp can relax. The eyes can relax in their sockets. Dharma Drum Mountain Retreat Center is a place where people can come and be instead of do or should be or should do, but to experience meditation, yoga, community activities. I used to teach high school in the South Bronx, in a school that was for students who were at risk of dropping out or had just come out of prison or were on their way to prison or on parole. And so society had told them that they were really failures. And yet this school was their last chance to get a diploma. And I asked them if it was okay to invite a Buddhist monk to our class one day to talk about mindfulness. And they said, sure. What's a monk? He presented them with a very simple technique of counting their breath. Now, not all of the students were interested in it, but those who were said that they taught their parents how to do it, and that it helped their parents who were struggling. And there's a whole movement now in mindfulness and education all over the world. People are working with young people who are in prison. People are working with people in hospitals. So it's pervasive. So CUNY's slowly, I think, opening up to this. And we meet once a month with faculty. And we actually practice mindfulness and thinking about how could this be useful in our own classrooms.
If I can slow down and be that model for them and practice listening and be in the moment with them, that's another lesson that's coming out besides the nuts and bolts of what I'm teaching.
It's a very difficult time right now. This is a pretty crazy millennium where there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of economic turmoil, there's a lot of violence, and so people are asking questions like, do we have to live this way? And how can we live with a little less stress in our lives?
Thanks for watching Study with the Best. Our new season starts in September, and we sure hope you'll join us. For more information, visit cuny.edu, or you can Facebook and tweet us at CUNY TV. See you next time. Bye.
Today we learn about bees. Bees. Most of the times I use honey for my breakfast. They come out of the hive and get nectar from the flower, and then they go to the high cone and put the honey and then flap their wings to make it thick. My little brother says that he likes the fruits and the vegetables from the market. Because the food from the market, my mom says that it is really healthy.